This is part two. Uh, I had some technical difficulties, and I ended the video before I was finished. But this is part two. We was talking about ill-concerted. We was talking about the uh, the small group, minority group of people, the public administrations who mirror the people ill-concertedly and congruous, project a fashion rather than the organ and consistent and wholesome plan digested by common counsel and modified by mutual interests. So, in other words, instead of them setting up a government for the people, to give all the people the desires and the fairness, equal equality of life, due process, equality, everybody receive their part on the earth, ruling their own lives. They set up this ill-concerted government. And what it does is an adjective. The word is an adjective. And it contrives or arranged by argument, planned and devised together. Argument. The Senate, the House, all these branches of government, the Democrat and Republicans arguing for different groups of people. And they got to vote. You shouldn't have to vote. You shouldn't have to vote. All the people should want the same thing. They rule their own lives. Excuse me. A republic. Every man has a right to rule his own world. One law by God. God's law, the one law, right? If we all follow God's law, then we not going to hurt our brothers and sisters. If we got our own land that we living on, we ain't going to violate your boundaries. You can't move another man's boundaries. You might be able to buy his land from him and use it and rent it out from him where you can do certain things. Maybe your land, you need a little more. You got a bigger family. But you can't sell your human rights. Can't nobody come and take them. You don't have to vote on certain things. There's enough land and food and resources for everybody. But it's this one group of people who's acting in concert, arranged by argument. They planned this. The government is planned. The arguments are planned. And they're devised together. They sat down to craft the council. How can we keep them arguing over here? We keep them arguing. Conflict theory. They rule by conflict. That's what they mean when they say they rule by conflict. The conflict theory, we keep the people arguing and keep them voting, then we get to decide. And we have lobbyists. We have the rich people, these few rich people that helping the governments to steal the sovereign power from the people of the land, because their land, the Edomites' land, is those mountains, the Caucasus Mountains. There wasn't much they could do up there, And so they came down with a vengeance, mad as hell, Because the sovereign people have been living in harmony and enjoying the earth. And they came down. God knew Esau, who he was. They came down and said, you're going to utilize our father Esau's blessing. We're going to take the earth from these people. Take their land. Not share their land with them and work for them and help them out, help them cultivate their land, and we're going to get the glean from them. We're going to have our land, their land. We're going to steal their sovereign power. We're going to change the laws, change the time, change their identity. We're going to rule over God's people. But this humanitarian law that God set up is proof that we are not in slavery when we come back to God's laws. And I'm going to show you why. Showed you the argument is planned. Democrat and Republican is a system that is planned to keep them in power to choose and to grant to us like servants, grant to us the crumbs from his table, Now we working, we storing the storehouse up. We working and storing the storehouse up, and they took claim of the storehouse too, right? You remember how Donald Trump went into the Social Security? They wanted to go into the Social Security and just dismantle it. Their plan, I'm recording on my phone. Their plan was to steal that Social Security too, and stop the sovereign people. That was going to be a big way to stop us from surviving, they thought. But they're not thinking right. We know they're not thinking right because the Bible in 2nd Ezra told us, not 2nd Ezra, Wisdom of Solomon, 2nd chapter, told us that what their plan was to torment and torture us and oppress the righteous. And anything they do, that's why you got to stop depending on the crumbs from the master's table, Esau's table, because his kingdom is fallen. And anything they do or say they giving you, they call you 1,000 times a day if they could. They calling around just tormenting people, the elderly, with Social Security and Medicaid and all of that, and Medicare. They call you back to back. You can cuss them out. You cannot answer your phone. They're going to keep calling, keep calling. If you answer that phone, they make you wait. They put a voice, then they call you. And if you tell them you don't, you don't qualify. If they say, you ask you something you don't qualify, they'll just hang up on you. You cuss them out, they'll call you 1,000 times back. They'll call you nigger. They got the foreigners, these same people, Chinese, they got them working. They got them working on those phones, telemarketing. They got all those foreigners working. They'll call you nigger, you black as shit, nigger. I asked them the nationality, what they say. Ask your mama what your daddy's nationality is. They just, that ain't the people trying to do business with you. They are set there to torment you on those telemarketing calls. Everything to commit conflict. That's how these people work. That's how the wicked work, through conflict. Keeping the people of Israel in conflict, right? And that way we would never unite, never come back together and take our power back, because God is our power. He's going to work for us if we unite in love, treating each other right, come back to these commandments. He's going to take them down so fast they know it. They are experiencing God's power against them with these natural disasters that they call Mother Nature. When that COVID hit, what did they do? The people that had those Bell guys, East Indians, and all those people, they took them guys out of their house and threw them in a river, man. They knew that God. They know who God is. So, because government failed, I'm reading out of this book, We the People. Because government failed in their duty to assure a proper education in our schools. The government was supposed to educate us. You know, they put us all to sleep by killing our ancestors and putting us in boarding schools and teaching us that they brought us to our land, to our sovereign lands. They brought us here from Africa because Africa is the only place dark-skinned people were at. And you're just Africans. We don't know who your ancestors are, your mothers and fathers, immediate family, immediate bloodline. You can never trace that back. We don't know what y'all talking about. It says because they failed to educate us in their school that we were not all Africans, all one people, the dark-skinned people. But that's the Hamites. Everybody on the earth was dark-skinned. They tried to tell you that the white people were here first. And then we figured out through biology that they can't make white, black, brown-skinned babies. Two non-melanin Edomites cannot make brown babies. But we made them. We are their forefathers. So we found that out. God, the earth helped us, and God helped us. Angels came and talked to us. They were supposed to assure the proper education in our schools of how the world works and the proper history, the true history. It is the duty of the people to self-educate. That's what they call critical race theory. Hostility against them. What's that other term with the small hats they use? Anti. How can you be anti against yourself? It don't make sense. When we build up ourselves, they call us, when we take our identity and discover our identity and start calling ourselves by our true identity, they say we're anti against them. It's like the lion saying to the sheep, why are you fighting back? Why are you trying to get away? You don't want me to eat you no more? Why are you running away? Right? Educate. We're supposed to educate their sheriffs. We're supposed to have our own sheriffs. They were supposed to educate our people so we can have our own sheriffs. The sheriff is the only true lawman in the world, really. And educate our children. We miseducate. They miseducate us. That's why in those history books, that's the first thing they taught you. You was a slave. Why would they teach a child that? Why would they teach? Because they wanted you to have no self-identity, have no pride, to look up to them and worship them as master and their people as the sovereign people of the land. That was the first step, is to denigrate the people and take their self-identity, and they will look up to us for their identity. And so they put on the application, are you African American, are you Negro, are you Hispanic, or some other? They want to see how smart you are, because if you say other, oh, I'm an Israelite, you won't get that job or that loan. This is the purpose of these series of handbooks, and the book governed by consent, scheduled to be released December 2020. Well, I bought the book. It's great. It's a big book. It's a real big, thick book, and it's easy to read just like this. It's teaching you everything about law, common law, God's law. Excuse me. So we're gonna look at this video. I hate that I had to break it up, but I couldn't start all over again. Let's show you.
And intended to starve the civilian population. Moreover, as confirmed by the court in its OPT advisory opinion, Israel, as occupied power, has no sovereignty over or no right to exercise sovereign power in any part of the OPT.
All right, did y'all hear that? Israel was set up by the United States to be the state of Israel. Anybody set in your country or come to your country where you're sovereign at, they have no sovereign power. They can't make laws. They can't force you to, under their jurisdiction. They can't take you into their courts. If you're committing a bodily harm crime of to one of their citizens or their property, then they can detain you and call your government, which we don't have because after they put us to sleep and put us in slavery, when they let us go, we didn't have nothing. If we had shoes, that's all we had, and clothes on our back. So they set us up to fail, right? But he just told you, according to the humanitarian society, not humane, humanitarian society, that any government that's occupying, colonizing your land, they have no sovereign power. He's going to tell you some other interesting stuff. Look.
In addressing the humanitarian crisis in Palestine, multiple Security Council and General Assembly resolutions confirm and reaffirm Israel's relevant obligations, providing valuable
Israel's relevant obligations. You have an obligation. Did not just read. We just read in the United States convening common law. Common law is God's law. It's sovereign law. This is what they have to go by. This is the law that anybody that come in your country illegally or you Declaration of Independence, this is the law set up for them. This is the law of the land, common law, which is based from the foundation of God's Mosaic law, civic law, how we should treat each other. And he says the obligation is to provide guidance. What's guidance? To teach the people this handbook and what sovereign law is and what they have the right to do and what they don't have the right to do. That's the Constitution, Peace and Friendship Treaty. The Moors were smarter in government. They brought that over here and they were running the government. The Northern Kingdom delegated the Moors, the Judites, the Jews. They've always been delegated to run the kingdom. The king David came out of that. The prophets, right? The priests, they were all the leaders of government. So don't look crazy when we tell you that the Northern Kingdom here in the Americas gave their power to the delegates. They looked up to them to take the lead in government when it came to foreign countries, international and domestic. All right?
Guidance for the present case. It must be emphasized, Mr. President, the principles and the rules of international humanitarian law cannot be derogated from unless explicitly provided for. In practice, the occupying power may impose appropriate restriction on the presence and
So he said you cannot move away from the international law, the common law, the sovereignty of the people. You cannot move away. If you're occupying, you can never, Donald Trump, General Yohana, Nathan, move away from the law of the land, the law of the earth, which is Mosaic law, which is the humanitarian law, which is the common law, which is the Constitution, which is the Peace and Friendship Treaty, which is the humanitarian articles of law, which is the rights of indigenous people. Now, I hope y'all got it this time.
Activities of humanitarian assistance.
Let's go back and look at that again.
Unless humanitarian law,
Let's look at it.
it must be emphasized, Mr. President, has no sovereignty over using siege or blockade. When siege or blockade are not prohibited per se as a method of warfare under international humanitarian law, these methods become unlawful when intended to starve the civilian population.
See, so he said when you blockade, when you do anything, when you police stop you, they are unlawful. When you are intended, when you do this to the sovereign people, you're operating unlawful. You can't block their way. You can't barricade. You can't run and stop them, run your lights on them. You can't stop them from governing themselves. You can't interfere in their governing of themselves. You can't block up their rivers. You can't put dams on their river. You can't redirect their waters. You can't commit water systems. You can't charge them for catching rainwater and watering their garden. Lawrence, Indiana. Lawrence, Indiana, you are violating God's rights and God's going to destroy you. All of these laws that they make to stop you from utilizing your sovereignty and governing yourselves and with your resources and all that's in those articles I named. Let's keep watching.
Moreover, as confirmed by the court in its OPT advisory opinion, Israel, as occupied power, has no sovereignty over or no right to exercise sovereign power.
Israel, as an occupier, United States Corporation, you have no right to act as a sovereign power. You hear that? All you dummies saying that you following the law of the land, humanitarian society. Real humans say that people who come in and occupy your land, they are not humans. They're not operating as humans. They're operating as beasts. You hear them saying it. I guess hopefully you'll believe it now. General Yohana, I hope you believe it, Nathan, and all your captains. You dummies, it's not in the Bible to say we are supposed to set the heathen up as government, as authority over us, and if we don't, God gonna kill us. You can't have it both ways. That's confusion. That's not line upon line, precept upon precept. Deuteronomy 17 and 15. Let me read that for you right quick. Just real quick. We'll read that for you real quick. Deuteronomy 17 and 15. Thou shalt in no wise set him king over thee, whom the Lord thy God shall choose one from another, one from among thy brethren. Thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee. He's telling you who to set king over you. Over thee, whom the Lord thy God shall choose from among thy brethren. Thou shalt set king over thee. Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brethren. All right? So, you got that? So, that scripture that they read, in Romans 13. Is that Romans 13? Okay. Now we read Deuteronomy 17 and 15. Now, which one of these scriptures is right? Let every soul be subject unto the higher power, for the higher power, the higher powers. Who is the higher powers? Let's see, Trump, all the senators, all the governments, all the state law, they say different things. Common law is federal. The state laws have their individual laws. So your knowledge to all the different, when you run in different counties and different states, everybody make their own law. Israelites got to be subject to all these different laws in all these different counties, states, cities, governments, countries. You subject to all of them people. You'll never keep God's laws trying to run behind these ungodly people and powers. For there is no power but God. So it lets you know who it's talking about. There's no power for God. It ain't talking about your city and state laws, right? The power that be are ordained by God. It's talking about people who are teaching that we should follow God's laws. And it's people that are set up. We set our own people and kings up. Our own. We just read where our own people, we can't set these other governments up over us. We can't let them have authority and jurisdiction over us. Only our people. We are sovereign. We're supposed to keep our sovereignty. We can't sell it. We can't give it away. We can't let nobody steal it. We have to stand and resist the devil when he's coming at us to separate us and divide us so he can conquer us with his laws and his fake military. Because there's no other power but God. When you go into contract with these evil nations and promise them you're going to follow their laws and turn your own people in, when we break one of their laws, then you're going against the power of God, the only power, and you setting the devil in power over you. It says, whosoever therefore resists the power, it's not talking about Esau's power or African power. Whosoever resists the power resists the ordinance of God. The ordinance of God is the power. Our strength shall be the law of justice, which is the Mosaic law, the common law. The common law. Resist the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to them damnation. So you're gonna get put to death. I mean, you're gonna be damned if you don't start respecting these transvestites as whatever they decide to be. If you don't respect same-sex marriage and you say you talk against that, you're gonna be damned. If you don't vote, you're gonna be damned. If you jaywalk, you're gonna be damned. Don't be dumb, y'all. Look at the verse 3. We're going to show you. For the rulers are not a terror of good works. I just thought we read in edition of Esther on their last video, edition of Esther, that they were against us because of our laws. These strange people, they call us being mischief. They are against God's laws. They tell you God's laws don't exist. I thought the rulers are not terror of good works. If we are setting them up, yielding our members and our bodies and our minds and to obey the rulers of the land, the law, people who make the law, They call it justice, say it's God's law. It's not God's law. The common law is, but they don't follow that. They rule us under Jim Crow and the Christian black codes. They're not rulers. They're not against good works, but to the evil. They are against the evil, then they are keeping God's laws. They are not keeping God's laws. They move your border. They redline your districts. They set up barricades and they stop you when the Bible says they can't do that. They can't operate as sovereigns in your land. I hope this is getting through to y'all, man. Queen Abador, I hope this is getting through to y'all. So, but to the evil, their laws working against evil. No, it's a damn lie. Their laws is evil. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the powers? Are you going to not be afraid of the powers? You going to not be afraid of Esau's laws? If his laws are the law of the land, hell no. You scared of his laws. So you can deport people off their own land without due process. You claim they somebody else. You can make them go back across a border of imitation border, a fake invisible border. When you can keep them in the lines, keep the colors in the lines. You design the territory, the ghetto. When they move around the earth, you say, "What you doing over here? You can't deliver my packages to me. I want white people to. You can't come in this part of this gated community. You black. Go back where you came from. I bet not see you over here. Citizens gonna kill you, beat you to death, take your truck. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the powers? Not God's power, because the power that He assigned to the prophets, they won't harm you. They won't harm you. They're not gonna harm you. When the righteous is in authority, the people rejoice. Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. All right. So we broke that down to you. Now let's keep listening. You know where we're at here.
Moreover, as confirmed by the court in its OPT advisory opinion, Israel, as occupied power, has no sovereignty over or no right to exercise sovereign power in any part of the OPT. In addressing the humanitarian crisis in Palestine, multiple Security Council and General Assembly resolutions confirm and reaffirm Israel's relevant obligations, providing valuable guidance for the present case. It must be emphasized, Mr. President, the principles and rules of international humanitarian law cannot be derogated from unless explicitly provided for. In practice, the occupying power may impose appropriate restriction on the presence and activities of humanitarian assistance only under specific circumstances, which I will now outline.
The only way you're going to move from humanitarian assistance, and the rules of the humanitarian God's laws, let's see what he's going to say. He said, in specific circumstances, peculiar circumstances, then you might have to uh, adjust. You might have to adjust. But you always have the interest of the sovereign people. You can never take sovereignty over them as you're adjusting, but you might have to do things a little different to reach the same purpose, keeping them sovereign and you not sovereign at all. You're not sovereign at all. This is not your country, United States people. You are not white, and we are not your slaves anymore, regardless of what Nathaniel and General Yohana says.
First, activity and movement of humanitarian personnel may be restricted only in the case of imperative military necessity.
The only way you're supposed to stop people, blockade roads, redirect their movement is the military, who are not sovereign but operating for the sovereign. Until we get our military, they got to protect us like we are the sovereign. What's that? Immunity, diplomatic immunity. Go this way, sir. It's dangerous down here. We're fighting the enemies over here, so we redirecting you over there. That's what he said.
This restriction face two critical limits. They cannot constitute a complete ban on humanitarian activities. And
You hear what he just said? They can't ban you from doing nothing on your land. It's your land. They can't say, well, you can't stand on this sidewalk near the church. You can stand wherever you pay your taxes at. You can't violate other people's property. We know that. You can't speak free here. You can't. This college here, we're gonna put tariffs on this college. We're gonna seize the property. We're gonna come and seize your property. We're gonna make you pay taxes on your property that you own. You got to pay us taxes. You got to pay taxes for using our money. No, that's our money. Thank you. Our paper mills. You got the trees. You made the money. You made money. Whatever you got. If you made money in America, that's our money. That's not your money. Where'd you get resources from? You came over here with the dog hair on your body on some raggedy ships that ain't here no more. Where you get anything from in this land? Where did you get anything from in this land, you lying devils?
Must remain temporary, not permanent. Notably, only in the case of imperative military necessity. These restrictions face two critical limits. They cannot constitute a complete ban on humanitarian activities, and they must remain temporary, not permanent. Notably, these restrictions are not applicable to humanitarian materials. Second,
you know what he just said? You cannot, what they call that, FEMA. Now, you cannot take the materials for humanitarian and dish them out like you want to. Because they're our materials. They're the sovereign's material. We set you up for in case of national disasters, in case of any kind of Red Cross. You can't take that money that's donated to you and put it in your family's account. You can't only dish out resources to people who call themselves white, people who have usurped our authority, our identity, and take care of your people You can't only loan money to your businesses, your United States businesses, and redline us when you're using our banks and our resources and our money. You're using that. You're using our land. You're collecting taxes from us. Y'all gonna be judged for that. You can't do it permanently. If you restrict anything permanently, you're going against humanitarian rights, and you're making yourself the sovereign authority in our land.
Specific humanitarian arrangements may be subject to temporary technical restriction based on the reasons of security. However, such restrictions cannot amount to either a denial of humanitarian assistance presence or a general prohibition on the access of the humanitarian assistance. Third, providers of humanitarian assistance may be subject to appropriate restrictions on their presence and activities. If they violate humanitarian principles of humanity, naturality, impartiality, and independence. These restrictions must be based on sufficient legal grounds and factual evidence.
Due process. Due process. If you take and ship a man to another country without due process, it's illegal. If you do any restrictions forcing us to get licensed to do anything, that's against humanitarian principles, right? You got to have significant legal grounds, common law. If you do anything against, you got to have factual evidence that you have the right, that they violated you, and you had to subdue them. You had to detain them, the sovereign people. We're talking about people who occupy our country and come in acting. If you act in a way of sovereignty over these sovereign people, you have to have evidence that you're and factual evidence is that you're protecting yourself from these people. These people are attacking you. Then you become the humans that need human rights attention. If somebody's attacking you, whether they're sovereign or whatever in their land and don't have any grounds, they're not defending themselves or standing their grounds, then you become the humans that need humanitarian assistance. So you have the right to act as sovereign over those people who are violating your human rights, right? Stand your ground. Now, all of this is in stand your ground. All of this can be used for as what's the Taylor do? The guy that just was in that altercation, he had to stab the white guy to protect himself. All of this is humanitarian defense. It's a humanitarian defense, right? Okay, let's look.
And each case must be evaluated individually. When misconduct occurs, restrictions apply only to the specific individual involved, unless such conduct is proven attributable to the organization or state. As a matter of international humanitarian law.
So, in other words, white people getting online talking about it's going to be a bloodbath because two individuals had an altercation and one of their people lost their lives, self-defense, because they were violating another's human rights. And y'all getting online and threatening all black people and judges and stuff. That's a act of terrorism, and you need to be deported. Everybody that puts something online threatening that judge or threatening black people, anytime you threaten a sovereign citizen and you are here without a visa illegally, you are here illegally. We have to give you a visa. The United States can't give you a visa. They have to come to us and ask us, can they bring people in our land? We only gave the founding fathers permission to be here. But if you want a permanent visa, you have to come to us. Africa just showed you that. They expelled everybody out of their country who was not for their country. That little small town that they flew in and out whenever they got ready to. They did business. They took resources. They stopped them April 28th, 2025. It was just on the news. And they united all of Africa together and said we can travel in each other's country without any conflict. But the Europeans, they cannot fly over here whenever they get ready to. Russia sent troops, China sent troops to help those African countries uphold and keep Turkey and their military and all their allies out of Africa, violating their borders. They got their ass out of there too, Turkey. Yeah, y'all a bunch of punks. Okay? So let's keep watching.
Humanitarian assistance is based on two pillars. The occupying power primary responsibility and third parties humanitarian assistance. Unlike the occupied power primary role, the third party play subsidiary and complementary role. The rule applies only when two conditions are met. First, the civilian population's basic necessities are not adequately supplied. And second, the occupied powers has given its consent. Such assistance must adhere to humanitarian principles when respecting technical arrangement established by the occupied power under international law. China knows that. A few written statements assert that the occupying power has a broad discretion to accept or deny the presence and activities of the third parties that provide humanitarian assistance. However, international...
So what he said, if you bring... Okay, so we're getting back to that again, how the United States opened, how the colonizers opened border, the East Coast and whatever, brought all those people in here. It took our people away. And then they utilized their allies, United Nations. They utilized a third party for military or humanitarian assistance. Now, when you bring that third party in, the acting sovereign power, the power that's acting in behalf of the sovereign people, you cannot bring that third party. You can't bring France, the Spaniards in, and set them up to occupy sovereignty over your people. The French claim they rule Canada and Hades and all down. The Spaniards, they went over and they placed all their bastard children over in government over the original Issachar. The United States, they placed indigenous people, they set them up as a state, a sovereign state. Their white civilized tribes over the true and called them Gad. They called them Gad. They went in and had babies with Gad. They went in and had babies with Gad. We know that. Pocahontas. And they stole the features, even stole some of the features from, although they have everybody's features, those Native American people, they have everybody's features. They got Moab's features, they got Esau's features, they got Gad's features, very few Negroid features. But they have Gad's features. You see, this is proof. This is proof right here how they call back to back. You hang up on them, they call you right back. That's terror. That's terror. I don't even have Part A and Part B, no Medicare. I'm a veteran. I use VA for everything. And I tell them this, and they still call. That's terror. They set up terror in your land, and these people are participating in it. They won't take me off the list. It's terror. They set up terror. So that's what he's talking about, the third part. I'm not going to hold you much longer.
Humanitarian law explicitly constrains such discretion by establishing two distinct obligations. In situation of occupation, the occupying power shall agree to humanitarian assistance from third parties. In situation of armed conflict other than occupation, humanitarian assistance from the third party shall be undertaken, and the parties to the conflict shall not arbitrarily withhold their consent. In the situation of armed conflict, international human rights law complements international humanitarian law. Israel is a party to several key international human rights conventions. These conventions apply to acts done by a state in the exercise of its jurisdiction outside its territory. Therefore, Israel is bound by these conventions in its conduct in the OPT. Israel has occupying power, is obliged to respect, protect, and fulfill the human rights and fundamental freedoms of.
You see, there is a court of international justice, right? That's the court. They subpoenaed Donald Trump and the United States to come and stand before them for the atrocities they did to the indigenous people, which are Israelites of this land. Donald Trump said, come and get me. They said, come and get me. We don't recognize your court. They don't recognize human rights courts, international court. The United States don't. The only way they're going to get, that we owe you nothing. Who can bring us down? That's Bible prophecy. They saying who can bring us down? That's why God has to come in and annihilate these people, because they have so much power that even the international court can't bring them down. Unless you have a military to meet those, the only people they scared of is Russia and China. They have matched weapons. That's the only people. That's the only thing that these people are afraid of. If you can match their military strength. And another thing, they're scared of the Israelites because we can match their military strength in this land. When God shut down all these computers like Russia's going to do, and they ain't going to be able to launch those drones, they going to run underground, man, because they can't match us. Toe for toe, they can't match us. They don't even have the numbers to match us. They'll tell you all day that they do. But there is an international court. Who you think set this court up? Not no damn law of the land. They don't recognize God's humanitarian court. Israelites, Nathaniel and your captains, general, we ain't sovereignty. Well, this court think we is. God set this court up. We are sovereign. You ain't operating as a sovereign because you scared and you care for your life. You want to live in Babylon long as you can. Dayton. When it was the old Israel, when it was coming out of Egypt, remember some of the people wanted to go back to Egypt because they missed out. They missed on the luxuries of Egypt. Our camp leaders missing. You got $25 million. You got $25 million, and you've been living paycheck to paycheck. You think you gonna try to bring this kingdom down before you spend all that money? You can't spend all that money before Christ come back. You gonna end up as sounding brass. You gonna end up getting thrown in jail and tortured. Because you want to be at the top of the line in the kingdom. Just do right. And God will put you where you're supposed to go. Did he tell us to go into the field? Y'all said, we've been here since 1969. We Israelites. We should be the rulers and the leaders of this kingdom. You setting yourself up as ruler, not God. He didn't set you up. He said, go into the field and work. And he said, the person that came in 20 years or 30 years ago, gonna make the same thing that the person came in yesterday when Christ come back. You just came into the kingdom yesterday when Christ come back, you gonna make the same thing as these niggas that's been standing up here trying to rule over the people. Basically, the taskmasters of the people. The error, they cause us to error in a lot of stuff, these Israelites. They cause a lot of people, they setting up barricades, calling themselves sovereigns when they just occupying the position of the prophet. And they call themselves sovereign over the people, making themselves rulers over the people. God gonna get you for that. And you occupying like you're sovereign to the kingdom of God, like you rule over everybody in the kingdom of God. And you're gonna have to suffer that. You're gonna have to suffer those consequences. You're gonna be made a martyr. You better step down and get in your role, man, and do some real work out here in this field. Teach this thing right, man. Stop lordshipping over people. Stop hating your fathers. There's a lot of men out here hate their fathers, man. They call them stupid and dumb when y'all little young dumb ass don't even know how hardly to take a bath. You can't grow food. You can't do nothing talking about you can't learn nothing from an old man. God gonna put them old men back in authority over you. Watch. Or either you gonna be in jail with Esau torturing the hell out of you. And you gonna turn coat. All right, just a little more.
Palestinian people in the OPT. These obligations include a full spectrum of rights, including Palestinian people's right to self-determination, life, work, an adequate standard of living, as well as the right to food, healthy, and education.
You know what he just said? That's the human rights principles. These are human rights principles. Did you hear what he just said? That's what we claim all we want from the United States. And what do? They take that away. Let's look at it one more time.
act and fulfill the human rights and fundamental freedoms of Palestinian people in the OPT.
Palestinian people are just like us. They're being occupied by a foreign nation that came into their country and forced them by military power to usurp the authority, sovereign citizens unto themselves. Just a small group of people. That's why God ran them out of them cities with that fire a few days ago. Ran their ass up out of there. I'm pretty sure some of them felt then, hey, we fighting God. We fighting God. We ain't nothing but filthy rags trying to fight God. In his land, in his holy city, doing the wickedness. Y'all think y'all got people in the mouth of the dragon. Y'all in God's hand. He about to squash y'all. He could squash y'all anytime. He let you build yourself up to your highest wickedness. He's going to squash y'all. Jesus is coming back to stump y'all to death. The blood is going to be up to the horse's brow. It's going to be saturating the earth. He going to cleanse the lands, Bosnia, Europeans. He going to cleanse the earth with your blood. And you standing up still trying to fight against God, you idiots. Idiots. White people, y'all the dumbest people on the earth, man.
These obligations include a full spectrum of rights, including
See?
Palestinian people's right.
That's torture and torment. That's torture and torment. That is torture and torment. Back to back calls, back to back calls.
To self-determination, life, work. These obligations include a full spectrum of rights, including Palestinian people's right to self-determination, life, work.
Self-determination. You claim your nationality based on who your ancestors are. So they are violating human rights when they say we are anti-Semitic, when we can prove through biblical history and through ancestry, uh, education passed down, identity passed down. We are the Indians. Our family, our grandma always said your grandma was Indians. Because they knew if they said the grandpa was Indians, then they could be killed. But your grandma don't have the seed, so it was safe to say grandpa had to be an Indian too. It wasn't enough Judites over here to melanate all the northern kingdom. If the northern kingdom was all pale, they didn't bring enough Judites over here, and they kept them in slavery. How did all the northern kingdom turn back black? They all down on the southern, all down South America and the islands, hid in the ghettos, being ruled by the tare, Tare, the wheat being ruled over by the tare in these dung hole countries that Trump called them. We have the right to self-determinate who we are. And we're going by proof, archaeology, history, explorers. They wrote in books. 19 explorers, 13 explorers said when they came over here what color the people was. And I don't even mention him no more. Gorilla. He's one of the adamant fighters for the Taino people being white from the beginning, the Mexicans being they don't even call themselves niggers. The Mexican being sovereign to Mexico, the white Mexicans. They don't even consider black people being their ancestors. And all them black peoples in Mexico look like Taino Indians, the black ones. They still got the look. The white Hispanics look like Spaniards. Y'all dumb, man. All down in South America. They got videos showing you all those black people. How'd they get down there? All of those are Judites too. They Jews too. That's the Northern Kingdom. The true Northern Kingdom is still here. The people y'all are calling the Northern Kingdom are the terror that the enemy sowed amongst the wheat and went his way, left them in the ghetto. Oh, they was in the ghetto with us. They went through. No, man, they ain't went through what we went through. Y'all ain't go through what the ancestors went through. You niggas standing up talking about we went through hard time. Y'all ain't go through no hard time. Y'all been selling dope, fornicating, getting drunk, sleeping with foreign women, doing everything. Eating pork, shrimp, and lobster. Yeah, y'all go through something. Y'all ain't go through nothing, man. You gonna go through something, though. You wicked 2/3, y'all think y'all all right. You better be keeping God's laws. Because if we wicked 2/3, some of y'all gonna get them nukes, man. That's why God got Trump out here now, chastising y'all. Got y'all talking about, oh, I'm following the laws of the land. Esau's laws. You can get judged for that. We have the right to work, have our own gardens. You know it's illegal to have more than 3 fruit trees on your property? They say you violating the markets, their markets. If you grow on your land your own food, you violating the markets. You violating them. You harming them. Gwendolyn ass people. Bear wolf, you Gwendolyn ass demons. We violating you because we living our life. Let's see.
An adequate standard of living, as well as the right to food, healthy, and education.
Healthy food means we grow our own food. We educate our own kids. You locked so many of us for taking our kids out of your schools, you locked us up. Grow our own foods, you want to lock us up. You said we harming you. I just said that. Health, trust in God and not taking your vaccines, your jabs and stuff. Want to trust God for our healing. You lock us up.
More attention should be paid for the protection of the right of vulnerable groups, including children, women, and persons with disabilities.
Didn't they say that let's Wisdom of Solomon, let's oppress the poor and righteous man, not considering the children or the gray hairs. We're gonna oppress them more, we're gonna feed them the alligators. We're gonna take we're gonna give the elderly poison medicine. Look. Proof. We got proof. I got proof right here on this video. These devils. I got proof. You think they're going to do something now? That's torment. Destroying the elders. Taking the food, filling it full of GMOs. Giving the elderly false medicines, false diagnoses. Testing medicine on the elderly. Seeing how long they can live taking this bad medicine. Let's look.
Disabilities. With respect to the humanitarian and development assistance, Israel is obliged to cooperate with the third party to ensure fulfillment of these human rights. This entails both positive and negative obligations. Israel shall actively facilitate humanitarian and development assistance, while refraining from creating obstacles to such assistance.
You see, the United States shall assist us in building our nations back up while abstaining from blocking us, redlining us, making us buy our own stuff back, got us caught up in credit scams, forcing us to use their money and taxing us. Everything they're doing against us, they should refrain. If they are humans and they care about humans, and they are not the devils that their ancestors were, and they're not holding down demonic positions over us, stealing our identity, then they have to stop and build us back up. And they're not going to do it. And that's why the Most High has got to nuke this place. He's got to take you people, you nations, back into captivity and force you to do what a humane person is supposed to do. Humane, powerful people is supposed to do for God's people. You bless Israel, you be blessed. You curse Israel, you're going to be cursed. No nation ever did anything but curse us. That's why y'all got to build us back up. And Christ is going to come. Y'all think y'all going to some sweet heaven where y'all ain't going to never get judged for your crimes? Nobody who can bring us down. Christ coming back, whoop y'all's ass, and force you to build us back up. Bottom line. All praise to the Most High.